Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. SEDIMA bolsters capabilities to tackle 2023 Atlantic hurricane season. Retired public health inspector and senior justice of the peace murdered in St. Anne. And later in sports, Johan Blake headlines 3 Jamaicans down to compete in Rome Diamond League meet this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. There is a call for senior citizens to be on high alert for suspicious activities in and around their surroundings. This follows the brutal murder of a retired public health inspector and senior justice of the peace in St. Anne yesterday. Shamala Pullen reports.
A blanket of sadness has fallen over the community of Huntley in Brownstown, St. Anne since Thursday afternoon. This follows the gruesome killing of 90-year-old Kenneth Downer. According to reports, Mr. Downer was at home minutes after 4 with his caregiver when a man walked through an open door and demanded money. Reports are that the helper declared that there was no money in the house, but proceeded to the bedroom to see if she found anything. That's when a barrage of shots were heard. She rushed back to the living room to see Mr. Downer lying in a pool of blood. One of Mr. Downer's friends says he was with him just before his demise.
When I reached here, it was about after 11, and I was here for a good while with him. So we were on the veranda sitting down and was talking. And he was eating a mango, and he said to me that, I said to him, I said, boy, that mango looks sweet, man. He said, yes, man, very nice mango. And we were there talking until he started to tell me 1 or 2 things, and, you know, we wrapped together for that period of time.
2 hours after he left, he got the unfortunate news. He was surprised.
I was just there, and believe me, it pulled me up, man. It pulled me up and let me feel real. I couldn't come to myself. I was so nervous.
And you declare as one of your very good friends.
Very, very good friend, man. A friend of the family.
The police confirmed the robbery was the motive. Mr. Downer is a retired public health inspector and senior justice of the peace. Community members say this incident has driven fear in them. There is now an appeal for senior citizens to be on high alert.
We ask that anybody who knows anything to cooperate with the authorities and let us bring an end to this tragedy by finding the culprits involved. And I encourage all senior citizens especially to be alert to their surroundings. You're at home a lot. Being at home doesn't mean to be comfortable and your place always open. Be alert to what is going on around you. And if you see strange people, call your friends. Call upon your JPs in your communities to come out and make note of suspicious activities.
Shamala Pullen, TVJ News.
More concerns this afternoon about the working conditions of firefighters across the island. However, this time the concern comes from a resident who believes the issues being faced can be addressed through a collaborative effort. Karen Simpson tells us more.
There have been multiple and repeated complaints about the deplorable working conditions at the island's fire stations. Just a week ago, at least 3 fire stations in St. Catherine were flagged unsatisfactory by the Public Health Department for the parish. Days before that, the firefighters staged a one-man protest over the poor working conditions. Over the last month, our news centre has aired several reports of similar complaints in several parishes. The most recent complaint is about the Brownstown Fire Station. The complaint this time comes from a resident. He says in addition to the deplorable working conditions, the roadway leading to the fire station desperately needs to be fixed.
You can't have the firemen them work underneath that condition. You can't have people going there. There's a lot of business on the same street there, so look on the road. You have the cemetery down there. Look on the road going back up to Minadil. There's a shame and a disgrace of what is taking place down there.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie at a party conference last year had promised that fire station along with the roadway would have been fixed.
Nothing of the sort. Until this present moment, nothing of the sort done into Brownstown. No fixing of no fire station, no fixing of no road down by the station down there. Because if you go down there, you can take the pictures of it and then you will see it for yourself.
And Mr. Eric Denton says there was also a promise to build a shed for the only fire truck attached to Brownstown. However, that has not happened.
The sun and the rain is the shed that it's under. The underneath the element, that's where the shed is. Under the element that's looking up on the sky. So the sun come burn it, the rain come wet it, the dust that's blow all over the place, just blow on it. So that is there for cobwebs. It is just there for rat and for fowl to lay eggs into it.
He is also calling for additional fire station in the parish. In the meantime, Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Stuart Beckford, recently admitted that there's still a long way to go in fixing the problems. However, he says the concerns will not fall on deaf ears and has pledged to address the issues. Carrie Simpson for TVJ News.
The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDIMA, says it continues to be challenged in getting financial support from member states. SEDIMA says a part of the problem is that a number of countries across the region are facing fiscal constraints, and the COVID-19 pandemic has made the situation worse. Details in this report.
The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDIMA, says the agency has been receiving less support from some of its member states. It says that's understandable as the COVID-19 pandemic has had dire impacts on the budgets of a number of regional governments.
So the fiscal situation is definitely a factor, and some countries have put policies in place to constrain expenditure as a result of the implications of COVID-19 and as they're going through the recovery efforts.
But with member states not sufficiently funding the agency, will that affect SEDIMA's ability to respond to disasters throughout the hurricane season?
The answer is no, because the financing for the mobilization of the regional response mechanism is external. And I mentioned that the funding for this year and through to 2025, in fact, comes from the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the UK FCDO.
However, SEDIMA's Executive Director, Elizabeth Riley, told journalists that there's a strong commitment among regional governments to the work of the agency.
My discussion with our internal team is about addressing the problem from a higher level so that we look at a long-term sustainable financing solution to the financial realities of the agency.
Despite those challenges, the SEDIMA Executive Director says the agency is prepared for the hurricane season.
The region is being supported with assistance in the strengthening of its disaster readiness by global support and development. This is a humanitarian organization whose mission is to rapidly respond to disasters in collaboration with at-risk communities and support them to prepare for future disasters. Global support and development has a unique combination of skilled response experts and leaders in the humanitarian sector. What we're even more excited about for the region is that as a part of GSD's relationship with this region, they will be posting later this month a state-of-the-art humanitarian vessel in the Caribbean region. The vessel is called the MV Dawn.
A memorandum of understanding is to be signed between SEDIMA and the GSD later this month in St. Lucia. Halshane Burke, TVJ News.
In the meantime, SEDIMA says it has been bolstering its capabilities to perform multiple relief efforts at once during the hurricane season. The agency's executive director, Elizabeth Riley, says it comes on the back of the 2017 hurricanes, which caused devastation in a number of Caribbean territories.
We have been ramping up our capabilities for this, having experienced a similar scenario in 2017. And I think members of the media will recall the impacts of Hurricanes Irma, Maria, Jose. They all came one behind the other and all reached Category 5 status, impacting multiple states. In fact, we had in total 9 states impacted in some way. We are quite confident that we are able to mount the response requested from our states at the time that's required.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The parliamentary opposition is renewing calls to the Health Ministry to immediately address a number of issues in several hospitals across the country. Shadow Minister Dr. Maurice Guy made the appeal during Tuesday's sectoral debate in the House of Representatives. The details in this report.
As I did in my last sectoral presentation, I asked, what of the now? What plans are in place for the now?
This is the question being directed to the country's health ministry by Shadow Minister of Health, Dr. Maurice Guy. Dr. Guy is calling on the ministry to inaugurate measures to immediately address a number of anomalies plaguing the island's health institutions. Among his concerns, the desperate need for an increase of health professionals in hospitals and the inadequate number of beds to accommodate patients predominantly in larger facilities.
The ordinary man will also tell you of the crowded conditions that he experiences on the ward of both the KPH and the Spanish Town Hospital, to name a few. He will tell you of the difficulty in getting a bed, even when he's admitted, or the fact that he has to lie on the mattress or a piece of sponge on the floor whilst he's been treated with an IV drip in his hand.
The Shadow Minister also expressed concern about the ailing state of the Kingston Public Hospital. Reports are that the air conditioning unit in a number of the facility's apartments frequently malfunction. Furthermore, Dr. Guy is rubbishing the $14.1 billion figure presented by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton for the rehabilitation of a Cornwall Regional Hospital, CRH. He believes the minister should take accountability for short-changing the people of Western Jamaica, considering the projected delay in the completion of works on the facility.
He blames everything that has gone awry in the health sector on previous administration. It is time the minister owns up. Hug it up. Hug it up. He has been minister for 7 years.
That's right.
As the minister earlier on said, who preceded me in the sectoral. 7 years they have been there. And if this minister remains so even after the reshuffle. At the rate the minister is going, he might be tempted to lay blame on the Minister of Health in the late 1960s who conceptualized and built this Cornwall Regional Hospital.
He went further.
And for ease of reference, I'll read it. Where any minister has been charged with the responsibility for a subject or a department of government, he shall exercise general direction and control over their work relating to that region and over that department.
And it's time for the Business Minute.
Real value added for the goods producing industry declined in the January to March quarter. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Henry, says the contraction was largely influenced by the dry conditions experienced in the first 3 months of the year.
Output of the goods producing industry fell by an estimated 0.7% due to contractions in all industries with the exception of mining and manufacturing. This performance largely reflected the impact of drought conditions and a slowdown in some capital projects.
In international business, despite rising prices and a sharp spike in borrowing costs, job creation in the U.S. remained robust for May. Employers added 339,000 jobs as more people entered the labor force. The job gains were far stronger than expected, continuing a streak of hiring that has surprised economists. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Guyana police have detained 4 teenagers following a fire that destroyed the St. Angela's Girls' Hostel in Karazabai village. Preliminary reports suggest that the fire, which started around 3 a.m. on Thursday, was an act of arson. It's understood that threats were made on Wednesday to set the building on fire. 17 students were being accommodated at the hostel at the time of the fire, however, all escaped unharmed. On the international scene, 45 bags containing human remains with features matching 7 missing call center staff has been discovered in a ravine in western Mexico. According to the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office investigating the deaths, preliminary information revealed that the body parts matched the physical features of some of the missing employees of the call center. 7 call center workers were reported missing between May 20 and 22. Forensic experts have yet to determine the number of victims and their identities. And fuel prices have nearly tripled in Nigeria after the country's new president, Bola Tinubu, said his administration would no longer subsidize gasoline for citizens of Africa's largest oil producer. During his inaugural speech on Monday, Mr. Tinubu declared that the fuel subsidy is gone, adding that it was unsustainable. He says the funds will be redirected to better investments in public infrastructure, education, healthcare, and jobs. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm Carrie Simpson.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Jermaine Brown will have your midday sports report.